All right, good evening and welcome to the City of Sunbury Council meeting. It's October 19th, 2022, 7:30 p.m. Would you please join me in a moment of silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance? Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Joe St. John.
Here.
Damon Capel.
Here.
Tim Ghost.
Here.
Murray Neff.
Here.
John Brumney.
Here.
David Martin.
Here.
Cindy Cooper. Here. 7 present.
Right, we had a meeting on October 5th, 2022. The minutes are in the packet. Motion to approve. Motion by Dave Martin,
Second.
second by Cindy Cooper. Discussion. Roll call.
David Martin.
Yes.
Cindy Cooper. Yes. John Brumney.
Yes.
Murray Neff.
Yes.
Joe St. John.
Yes.
Tim Ghost.
Yes.
Damon Capel.
Yes.
7 yeas.
All right, and we are on to the visitors section of the meeting. We do have representatives from AEP this evening. I'm going to hand it to Steve Pyle so he can give a little bit of background, and then looking forward to discussing Sunbury and AEP and how we can work together.
Thank you, Mayor. About a month ago, we had some glitches and then we had 2 longer outages. There's continuing to be some concern on reliability and wanting to understand the efforts that are going into making our system more reliable in Sunbury. Ms. Shoemate from AEP was kind enough to accept my invitation to come to speak to you and provide you with some information. It looks like she has a good team with her and we'll welcome you to the podium. Is the green light on the,
Yes.
okay, perfect.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Renee Shoemate, External Affairs Manager with AEP Ohio. And with me, I have Andy Matson, Distribution System Supervisor, Mario Sims, Distribution System Manager, and Randy Marshall, our Region Support Manager. And each one of them, they will provide a summary and an action plan of previous improvements and upcoming improvements. And I don't know how they want to do it, but feel free to ask questions, maybe hold your questions or when they're done, or, you know, I'll leave that up to them. But if there are any questions that they cannot answer tonight, I will be personally responsible for getting your answers and getting back to you. So with that.
Thank you, Ms. Shoemate.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, so I'm here to talk about the power outages we've had. So this goes back to 9/29 and 9/30. So these were the sustained outages that the community experienced. So what we found on 9/29 at 1300, the circuit operated, losing power to the community. The crews patrol and identified potential hazard. We had belief that there was a piece of equipment that was failing that we then took offline. Once we took that piece of equipment offline, we re-energized the system at 1417. So at 9:30 or September 30th, at 12:21, the circuit operated once again. So next day, which I understand the frustration, losing power to our system again, feeding into your community. So our crews patrol, finding no additional hazards, and we re-energized the circuit back at 1549. So, I commend my Andy Matson, DSS. He's oversees the Delaware, which also oversees the Sunbury area. So he said this wasn't enough. We understood that there was something out there and we wanted to get to the bottom of this. So he put an action plan in place and this resulted in we have a quality of service group. And they're really unique because they use infrared cameras. And we use those when we're think Andy mentioned it earlier, a needle in a haystack. We have outages like this that are hard to find. So the quality of service group went out and did a full circuit inspection and IR scanned each piece of equipment. And what we found was one failing lightning arrestor that we replaced on the spot. We also found a tree limb that was lying across some phases. So that was removed. As well as we identified some of our cable that had too much sag in it. So you think sag it's just bellied. And when there's high winds, it gives the ability for it to sway and slap into each other. So there we took some slack out of that. And since then, I hope that we haven't had any other issues. So I just want to go into some previous improvements, what we did. So we had a circuit inspection back in 2019. So this is where we go back and we do not the IR scan of the circuits, but we do the visual inspection of the circuit. So back in 2019, we found approximately one pole that we replaced, 12 cross arms, 2 cross arm braces. I know this is getting very technical. This is a lot of pieces of equipment. 1 cutout, 15 insulators, and 3 arresters. So doing this inspection helps us ensure anything out there is prevented. Therefore, we're not having extended outages like we experienced recently. We had DACR that was installed in 2021. So DACR, what is that? That's where we have a piece of equipment that will, the term I've heard is self-healing system that most people can relate to. So you think you have an outage at the beginning of the line, instead of that whole line going out, we can pick up that load and isolate that fault, pick it up from another system, minimizing the amount of people that are out. So that was implemented in 2021, as well as we had 2 aging reclosers. So this is part of that DACR system that were replaced. They were supposed to be replaced in 2023, but we actually replaced them this year. So some upcoming improvements. We have a major reconductoring job that's supposed to take place in 2024. This will both strengthen the infrastructure, increase outage restoration opportunities. So when you say what is reconductoring the circuit, so that's going back and, you know, if we have wire that is too small, and we're upsizing that, what that also can bring is, as we're replacing poles, cross arms, all associated equipment that comes with that. So it'll help increase reliability because it's not just wire we're replacing much more than that. As well as some circuit inspection and repairs, and those are slated for 2024 as well. So that's what I spoke to earlier of going out there. We do it in a 5-year span, make sure we put eyes on every circuit at least once in every 5 years. So I'll take a quick pause there and see if there's anything else my team like to add.
One other thing about this return.
Oh, as well as the, this is my next note, the forestry trim cycle. So as well as our circuit inspection, we have a forestry trim cycle as well. So last time this was trimmed was back in 2020, and the next cycle will happen in 2024. And then as well as there's an additional circuit that feeds into Sunbury, so not the one that's been a pain point right now. This was last trimmed in 2020. The next trim cycle is in 2023. So I'll open it up for questions if there's any.
Yes, thank you. I had a question. So is it safe to say then you all have canvassed the entire district or the region here, the Sunbury area, and visibly seen all the exposed lines and identified the dangerous exposed lines with regard to a possible wind event? Because it seems like whenever we get a little 15 or 20 mile an hour wind, I'm sitting in my house wondering if my power's gonna stay on.
Yeah, so with the circuit inspection, once again, that's a 5-year cycle. We're doing that. But as well as when we have outages in your area, before we can re-energize, we have to visually go through the whole circuit before we re-energize. So that may be a pain point as well, because you think, why don't you just turn it on already? Well, we have to visually inspect and make sure there's nothing out there. So comfortably, I can say yes.
Okay, thank you.
DACR, my layman's analogy, it's like a set of Christmas lights. One goes out, doesn't mean the whole system goes out. Very good analogy.
So he's the engineer. I'll let him speak to that.
So once again, my name is Randy Marshall, and I am Region Support Manager and Project Design Engineering, and our right-of-way team report to me. So in regards to that DACR, what it actually does is it sets up points that allow our system to, I'm gonna call it reconfigure. So what it ultimately does is, let's say we lose power on one of your circuits. Well, this circuit may be tied off to another circuit that is controlled by a system, and think of it as like a brain. And what happens is when it senses that outage, what it'll do is it'll look and say, I need to reconfigure in order to restore the most number of customers. That's automatically what this system will do. Normally what we would do is we would manually go and switch it out. But since this system is automatic, it'll reconfigure based on where the outage is located. It's helpful. Hopefully that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, it did. One thing that I think for the general public that maybe I've had some information, but not everybody does, is Sunbury is a little bit unique. I mean, I'll call Route 3 as the dividing line, not 100% of the way, but we've got I'll call it the Galena Road, Tanger Outlet Mall substation, then we've got Vassal and over here that feeds kind of the historic side of Sunbury. So we've seen the most outages in Sunbury coming from the Galena Road substation. And I know you referenced the kind of the problem wires. I mean, it runs along Cheshire Road, if I'm not mistaken, and Galena Road. And there's a lot of trees down there. And I know there's been trimming, but I don't know how to say this other than we would like it if you trimmed a little bit more so we don't have the wind issues. Because it's, every neighbor of mine and everybody on that side of the town and like the newer side of Sunbury thinks that Sunbury can go send a sewer truck out there and fix the AP lot. So we would appreciate that, if you'd like to hit on that.
So I'll speak to that. So would I love to be able to come out there and just cut whatever tree I feel is a hazard? Absolutely. The reality is we can't. There's easement that we have within our lines and we have to stay within that boundary. So what you'll hear, or if you're signed up for text messages or some of the lingo you'll hear for us is there's a tree in right of way and there's a tree out of right of way. If it's a tree out of right of way, we can't do anything about it. What we have done is our forestry group has worked with some communities and went door to door, asking, can they remove some of these trees? But once again, that's a huge effort for us. We're focusing on that tree in right of way and staying within our easement.
For the property owners that are out of right of way, I'm gonna ask you really tough questions on that.
Yeah.
Are you holding them liable because they're damaging your property and affecting our service, your customers?
So I don't have that answer.
Okay.
And I would love to get back to you with that one on how liable they are
Okay.
when their tree is out of right of way. Once again, that's a pain point for us.
Galena Road is the one that stands out to me. You're coming from what is like 5 Points, the corner. You're probably pretty familiar with it, running down that line by the Berkshire Township,
Yeah, I know I can address that real quick. I know you probably experienced momentary outages on that circuit. we have had, a developer in that area we were talking about the golf course road that, we're rerouting line there now to help alleviate some of those issues. But we have had a developer on that road that's got under a line, along with the tree issues, through that right of way. If you went down and looked at the right of window, like Mario explained, we've cut everything that's in our, that's in our jurisdiction, I guess.
Okay.
That we can cut. We've done what we can with that as far as in our right of way. So I don't know if that helps you or not.
A little bit. On the developer front, you know, one thing we met with your team a few years ago, and I don't think it was you guys in particular, but we talked about Price Ponds, Romanelli Development, Ryan Homes, Rockford Homes, Pulte going through there and leveraging that as an opportunity to add, you know, a triplicate line into Sunbury. And I know there's some new poles up out there, whether they're actually, you know, helping with that DACR system and adding redundancy. I'm not sure that that's been done.
So the new poles that you see are part of that new line that's going through where Price Pond subdivision is. That job is not complete right now.
Okay, good to know.
Once it gets complete, I think we'll see a little better reliability through there. But keep in mind that the new poles has nothing to do with the DACR. The DACR stands for Distribution Automated Reconfiguration. Distribution Automated Circuit Reconfiguration.
Got it.
So that has more to do with things like reclosers that you were talking about earlier, sort of like breakers that are designed to work when they're enclosed in. And you may see a momentary outage when that system is working, but then others might experience an extended outage where isolating the problem.
Right. And that's what we saw on 929 and 930. There were, I would say, 3 blips, you know, where it went off for a second or 2. And then the longer outage. And, you know, both days were almost identical. And I think even the timeframes were fairly similar.
Correct. Those days, the DACR didn't do its job.
Okay.
And it isolated some customers. Unfortunately, Sunbury was part of the customers that where the problem was.
Right.
That's part of the isolate. But it did keep some of the customers on. So we were able to get better reliability as part of the customers on that line. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So on those days, then, my understanding that your system caught that there was a potential for a problem and it shut it down.
Correct.
Okay, and so that was a problem that needed to be fixed right then, and we couldn't have said like, hey, FYI, all of Sunbury Big Walnut schools, everyone who works from home, we're gonna shut everything down in 24 hours. That wasn't an option. It had to be shut down right then.
The system operates on itself. There is opportunity with our DDC department, but when we have situations like that, that is the system operating itself, saying there's clearly an issue, it needs
Okay.
to shut down. So what you'll see, you mentioned it, 3 blips and then it's out. So that's the system, I say brainstorming, it's saying, I seen a fault. Okay, it goes out, comes back on. I seen another fault, goes out, comes back on. I see another fault, something's wrong, I'm out. I always say 3 strikes out.
Right. Send the person out here. Right.
That's I try and explain it to my kids, 3 strikes, you're out. That's the way the system operates. But it's in order to ensure that we don't have something such as a twig. And I'm saying twig, not a tree, but a twig sitting on a line that it can clear itself and then come back on. We do have opportunities where a piece of twig, we've seen balloons and so forth get on our system, and then it allows itself to clear itself and it comes back on and there's no issue after that.
So on the 29th and 30th, you said there was multiple problems. There was a branch and there was slack in the lines.
So that's
So you
what we
said-
found on the 30th was multiple issues. On the 29th, what we identified was a piece of equipment. believe was faulty that we took offline and were able to re-energize.
Okay.
So they weren't related to each other. They were totally unrelated, 29th and the 30th.
I think that tree branch.
One was equipment.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah, you're
touching it a couple times. That's my hypothesis.
I would like to say yes, but I can't clearly answer that question.
Understood.
That's sometimes can be the touchy one, and that's why we brought in our 18 and did the infrared scan.
I saw about 8 trucks out there on Route 3.
Oh, yeah,
I saw that.
And I said, listen to this guy right here.
Yeah.
You know, once again, we've seen an issue. This is our dedication to reliability, and we rolled our whole garage out there.
So you said you examined the whole circuit
Correct.
before you turned it back on?
Yep.
So it was examined and then went off on the 30th, right?
Correct.
I guess the big problem that I is the frequency and the duration of the outages. It's not, if it was just these 2 days, obviously the exam wasn't thorough on the 29th, or else it wouldn't have gone out on the 30th. I mean, it happens a lot in Sunbury, and it happens for 24 hours, an extended period of time, to the point that you drive through Sunbury Meadows and it's just the hum of generators after a storm. I guess that's the big problem. And I don't think there would have been as big of a response on the 29th or the end of the 30th had this not been a reoccurring problem in Sunbury.
Okay, and that's something we're dedicated to looking at. So I'm gonna ask this question: since the 30th, has there been any concerns?
No.
Okay. I just wanted to, like I said, that's our dedication, and we're sending our crews out there. Momentary outages for us are oftentimes that needle in the haystack as well. You see that blip and say, okay, what was that? So,
But
Even on like the 27th, well, 28th, 27th, you were notified by several people because the power would shut off for about a second or two and then come back on. That was happening frequently for the weeks leading up to the 29th and the 30th.
okay.
And I don't know if that was just not investigated or what, but it has been, it wasn't just these 2 days that created kind of
The frustration.
everybody upset. It was that it happens and happens and happens. I mean, it happened, but Thanksgiving, I think we were out for like 2 or 3 days. So, I mean, those kind of things continue to happen. I know those have been fixed, but that was kind of what led to the frustration, is that can we depend upon the power here, to the point that many people had to go buy generators just to get through and have power.
I definitely understand that. So as you express your frustration, understand we have the same frustration, because that's more time that I'm pulling my guys away from doing other work. I'm pulling them out to bed in the middle of the night to go out there and see what issues are going on. So it's a frustration for ourselves. So once again, I do point back to my leadership that we have in place of, getting out there and figuring out what's going on. That's us saying, as you mentioned, 8 trucks sitting out there, us saying this can't happen again. And I do apologize for that.
So that length of time that Mr. Neff mentioned, have you diagnosed why that is specifically? Is it a labor shortage that we have here? Is it economics, lack of personnel to get out there and enough people to diagnose and get it done? Or is it a backup system? Is it your backup system that can't get in there in a timely fashion within a few minutes and get it back on? I'm having a hard time understanding that, why it takes so long.
Okay. So.
So, you talk about maybe just a few minutes and coming back on, so if the DACR doesn't operate.
That's the backup system, right?
So if that operates and there's actual outage, just keep in mind that we have to actually send some crews from the Delaware Service Center out here at Sunbury. So that means that if they're not during the workday, they have to either pull off the job if they're on or get out of bed and come in. So that it's going to be a lengthy amount of time, I guess, if you're talking about hours, I'm not sure if you're talking about hours and days, but lengthy amount of time, more than 2 or 3 minutes, means that we actually have to send somebody out, diagnose the problem, then define the problem. Then they have to get the manpower and the equipment to fix the problem. And then we actually have to do the work, which, you know, it's going to take a little while. So I know that's not what you guys want to hear. Just being honest with you on the amount of time it takes to fix a power outage.
And we understand the momentary outage, so the game has changed, you know, where a momentary outage, I spoke earlier, they were 50% of the customers are probably working from home. Now, so you lose electricity, you lose the internet.
You know, that's a huge pain point. So the game has changed and we're changing with the game as well, where we are dedicated to hunting down these momentary outages. So I understand the pain that it's bringing with the momentaries. I have no excuses. I mean, we're getting better.
First of all, I have a question. I appreciate the accountability. I appreciate you guys accepting the invitation, coming here, sharing the information and enlightening us on what's going on. So thank you for doing that. Very much appreciated. Is this unique to Sunbury? Do you think, are there other communities facing similar problems, or are we set up in a way that's maybe, you know, sets us up for more potential failures by the way we're designed, set up? You know, are other communities seeing similar problems, or is this kind of unique just to our city that you're aware of?
So everyone, I would say, has their own unique issues. It could be trees, it could be animals, it could be vehicle accidents. There's multiple pieces to the puzzle that can impact reliability, not just to Sunbury, but to any community. So being full transparent, Sunbury, what you're experiencing, you're not the only one, but that's our dedication. You know, everyone wants perfect power. And we're trying our best to provide that. You know, with our system, as I mentioned, you know, vehicle accidents, forestry, animals, weather, these are all things that can contribute to the reliability of the circuit. So it's not just Sunbury, it's just the way our system is built and Mother Nature.
So I have one thing, because we talk about, you know, multiple areas that are seeing these outages. I think it's important if you can provide me some of those areas. The reason why is because we're not talking about just one circuit that feeds into Sunbury. There's multiple circuits. And so it's important for us to, in order for us to really diagnose, is to know those different locations, neighborhoods. The one circuit that went out here on the 29th and the 30th, that was actually the one I think you said was coming out of the Galena, if I'm right, that's the Berkshire, right? Yes. And so you actually have a pole that has both the one coming from our Berkshire as well as the south. So that's the reason why I want to understand exactly the different locations, so I can look at the different, you know, circuits that may have contributed to that, and then provide more information in terms of what we're doing. If that makes sense.
Yeah, can't you just look at the neighborhoods that have been out for days? I mean, don't you have that information?
No, we have that information, but my thing is, because you said, hey, there's been multiple locations, and so
Multiple times. Like the frequency and the duration in the same neighborhood. Like Sunbury Meadows is where I live.
I can.
Out
I'm not trying to-
multiple times for a long period of time.
So some of the best data we get is from you. Right.
We can monitor the system, but we need to hear your pain points as well to help us. That's data we utilize as well. You know, you saying, hey, I live in this neighborhood, I'm continuously seeing issues. That's data for us. We need that. That way we can go back and dig even deeper into the system and figure out what exactly is going on.
Right. I think we can get you that information. We're going to make it in layman's terms. We'll circle a couple different neighborhoods that are experiencing these issues. just be aware the neighborhoods we're circling also have 2 schools in them, and they house like the fiber for the entire district. So when this network goes out, the entire district is getting sent home early. I think we can give you that information. I think we would want in return is also, some of the network design information. I mean, like where you've got duplicate lines, and I don't know if this is a Department of Homeland Security issue with you sharing that, or if it's non-public, okay. But we want to be partners in this with you guys. And if we know a little bit more, we can share it with our residents. So there's not such angst, towards AEP. We want to try to tame that down a little bit.
Absolutely.
And the other, I think, way we can work together is just better data sharing. So, what do our outages look like? I think John asked you a question. I think you answered his question. Do we have the same issues as other communities? Yes. But do we have a higher propensity for outages compared to other communities? That's the data we don't have. And I think we are very interested in that, because if there's design flaws, engineering upgrades, things that even we can help with, like through community design long term, we want to be partners in that as well.
Absolutely. And as we're sharing that data, we talked about forestry and those trees out of right of ways. That's something that if you can provide that to Renee, that'll help us out as well, because we can partner with the community and our forestry group. And if there are trees out of right of way that we are, the community is willing to take out, then that's something our forestry would, I would assume, be willing to do to help improve reliability.
Thank you.
Like I said, the biggest thing for us is as we're monitoring the data, there's no better data than real-time information from the community and what their pain points are. That's what helps us get better as well. And we're dedicated to getting better.
And I kind of wanted to dovetail in with Mr. Grumney's comment. I know that you provide to PUCO a system-wide level of your reliability and all the data. I can go on to PUCO and see that. Can you slice that down to Sunbury so that we can see how Sunbury compares to your overall system reliability?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we can. And I say pretty sure, I know we can. I just have to get with the right groups to pull that data. So we can pull that data.
I think that's one of the things this council is asking you to at least have that comparison. So we know, are we experiencing what others are experiencing, or are we experiencing something that's more severe? Thank you.
And we could even, if it's something where, we're concerned about this information getting out, beyond Sunbury, we could say, hey, the east and the west side of Sunbury is serviced by 2 different circuits or something. I think that would help us better tell the story internally that, hey, we need to focus with AEP on this side of town on upgrading the network or whatever, tree trimming, anything.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other questions? I just want to say thank you very much. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, team, for coming out here. We truly appreciate it. But also, I do want to acknowledge, I know that there was a hurricane and AEP supported, those customers, and that was a very significant issue. My dad lives in Port Charlotte, was there, wrote it out, and seen crews down there from every state in the union. So I do want to say thank you for that. And we also thank you for supporting, the nation, as well as supporting your local customers here as well at the same time. We acknowledge that. Thank you.
And if you have to reach out to me, you're pretty prompt. I'll get right back to you. I'll be answering that you have. So on everything for me, Mayor, and then you have my information, and you can give it to the other members.
Thank you, Renee.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us. Thank you. Thanks for coming. All right, we're still in the visitors section. Are there any visitors who would like to speak publicly this evening? All right, we're on the committee reports. Mr. Gose.
Yes, just earlier this evening, you all were here for the finance committee meeting. We had 2 major items there, the 2023 budget planning update from Dana, and still have a little bit more work to do with regard to the pending collective bargaining impact on that. But next meeting, November the 2nd, we'll have our first reading of that ordinance ready to go. Second item was the facilities planning project. Mr. Hennessy gave us a nice overview of where we are on that. And we still have some further scope estimating and planning, I think, with MS to do. But I think by our next meeting, we'll be ready to move forward with some financing discussions. I think that's it for now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ghost.
I had nothing to report. No.
All right, Mr. Capel.
Nothing here.
Mrs. Cooper.
Not really. This month, our events meeting was canceled, so no report, and we have a zoning committee meeting next Monday, October 24th. So zoning committee report next time.
Thank you. Mr. Martin.
No report.
Mr. Nutt.
Nothing to report.
All right, we are on to the police report. The police did submit a report. I believe it's in the packet. I read it earlier. We're not going to ask Mr. Ramirez to come up here and speak to it. The chief was a little bit under the weather. I apologize. I can't find the report. I did want to highlight something.
Page 16.
Thank you. Right.
Trick or treat, yeah. So when is that date again? It is actually on
It is.
October
31st, right? Correct?
Yes, sir. Try to make it easy.
And the chief says he'll have several officers handing out candy in the neighborhoods.
Yes, sir.
Good deal.
That's right.
I'll just say that Sergeant Meehan Officer Alexander attended the Rotary meeting on Tuesday, and they brought ACE, and it was really well received, really fun, really, they answered a lot of our questions, and it was really great to have the department out. So thank you to them.
I know they've been to Noah's Ark, and I think they're doing the tour, maybe the Inn at Walnut Trail as well. And it's great, great
Yeah.
engagement. All right.
So real quick, I see down at the bottom, the Kenny Zediker update. Do you know any further, Mr. Mayor,
The
what the,
chief and DC Wade have both been staying in pretty close contact with them. I think over the past few days, they haven't personally made contact. What's referenced here is the update that was shared from a family member's Facebook page, but definitely progressing in the right direction, slowly but surely.
still in the hospital?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's all we have for the police. We're on to the administrator's report.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm just going to mention about 3 things, maybe 4. Welcome David Rogers. He started with a wastewater department this week, and that puts us at the high water mark of staffing for many years. We're operational as a sub-department of Delaware County Building Safety now. Ms. Cooper mentioned planning and zoning. Just for public, Kintner Crossing will be on that agenda. I added some information on streets and wastewater. That's the first cut at that. There's a lot of things that I didn't mention. Everyday things, lab testing, samples that are going every day, on and on. I did want to mention that last item. We did an investigation of the flooding that we've had on South Miller in that one problematic area. We walked it, we figured it out how it's, using the map and ground truth, we found how it flows. We tested it. We did a little bit of cleaning. We opened up the pond a little bit. There is one structure there that Dale was concerned that we don't do too aggressive of cleaning for fear that that structure would then become a sinkhole. So we need to resolve that structure, who owns it and how to get it fixed. But we did get some flow going through that area, which is good. And then I also wanted to mention on 10/27, they're having the grantee orientation for our demonstration grant. You may remember 108,000, almost 109 coming to us to demo the 2 houses. It's got maybe another 5 days or so of clearing the Ohio Historical Center because the one house wasn't listed on anything, but it was on their radar because of a document from 1978 that noted that it had a very nice mantle and some very good woodwork inside of it. But the really old part of it had been taken down to put the filling station in. So confident that'll clear. And then I'll write the bid specs and we'll get that done. So.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions for Steve?
Just thank you for adding the streets and wastewater to your report. I appreciate that.
Welcome. Right. We're on to the engineer's report, Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to update you on the OPWC application that is in your packet tonight, the ordinance for approval. Not sure if everybody's aware of what's in that proposal. Just going to go over that real quick. So the streets included for the 2023 street improvements, of which we will be applying for OPWC grant and loan money. South Miller, West Granville, Fox Trail, Raccoon, Chipmunk, Cottontail, Woodchuck, Evening, and Walnut Street are the streets we have included. Majority of those are a Cape Seal product, which is a chip seal with a microsurface on top. We went over that at the service committee. And then mill and fill on South Miller, which is 3 inches of asphalt. So we'll mill down 3 inches, we'll add 3 inches back. And then Walnut Street's a combination of mill and fill and Cape Seal. So that total, we took a look at construction costs over a period of a month or so, talking with service and the administration. So $957,000 is the construction cost for those 9 streets. And we studied the funding options in depth. We took a look at District 17 and average grant amounts awarded last year to try to position ourselves, the best we could for a competitive grant application. Last year, I think the average grant for District 17 was about $367,000 in that range. So what we've looked at is 3 options. Recommending a grant for $300,000, a loan for $100,000, which would leave local funds or cash from the city at $557,000. So that's the split. I think that positions us well. If they took a look at actually the point scoring, looking at different options and just trying to position that the best we could. So that's it says something when you're adding $557,000 to a $300,000 ask. So that's well over the required percentage to gain maximum points for that grant amount. So that's a little bit of a breakdown there. I'll pause there. Any questions on the street program that we're recommending? Good. Other updates real quick. Continue to do some significant planning on the Little Walnut Creek Interceptor Sewer Phase 2. It's going to move up Cheshire to other areas there on the west side of the city. Probably the November service committee meeting targeted that for some discussion on that project. So Eagle Creek subdivision, which is over on 3Bs and a K, we expect construction drawings here within a couple weeks on that. So that'll be moving forward. And this week we are spending quite a bit of time on Kittner Crossing, which will be on a rezoning for Monday's planning commission meetings. So any questions?
Questions for Mr. Hall? Thanks so much for your work on the OPWC funding application. It seems like it's a 3-month exercise that we really drill down. Thanks to Steve, Brad for weighing in on that as well. And then really analyzing how we can maximize our points for the program. So truly appreciate it. And Kittner Parkway, by the way, it's a joy to drive on that. It's a joy. Smooth. Great. All right. Thank you. All right. We're on to resolutions. Third reading, resolution 2022.07, a resolution approving a 5th amended agreement for a countywide emergency management agency to add the city of Sunbury and the Delaware Public Health District as members of the executive committee. I think we're looking for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion by David Martin,
Second.
second by Murray Neff. Discussion. Roll call.
David Martin,
Yes.
Murray Neff,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper.
Yes.
John Grumney,
Yes.
Joe St. John.
Yes.
Tim Ghost,
Yes.
David Capel.
Yes.
7 yeas.
No second readings. We have first reading resolution number 2022.08. A resolution authorizing the city administrator to prepare and submit an application to participate in the Ohio Public Works Commission State Capital Improvement and or local transportation improvement programs in connection with the 2023 street improvement project and to execute contracts as required. So there was a slight amendment.
I think we might be looking for action on that tonight. Again, that's just to submit for our OWPC money. It's an annual thing for our streets next year. We need a motion on a suspension of the rules and then a vote on the resolutions.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Motion to suspend the rules. David Capel,
Second.
second by John Grumney. Discussion. Roll call.
David Capel,
Yes.
John Grumney,
Yes.
David Martin,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper,
Yes.
Murray Neff,
Yes.
Joe St. John,
Yes.
Tim Ghost.
Yes.
7 yeas.
Figure this the resolution. Just the resolution,
Yeah,
correct?
so we don't
Just a
have
resolution, no emergency.
no emergency line. Okay. Motion to approve resolution 2022.08.
Second.
Motion by David Capel, second by John Grumney. Discussion.
Our charter no longer requires us to have emergencies on our resolution, so that's why it's not there.
Roll call.
David Capel,
Yes.
John Grumney,
Yes.
David Martin,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper,
Yes.
Murray Neff,
Yes.
Joe St. John,
Yes.
Tim Ghost.
Yes.
7 yeas.
All right, we're on to ordinances. No third readings on there. Second reading. Ordinance number 2022.35, an ordinance providing for increased compensation for elected officials. No action needed. First readings, ordinance number 2022.43, an ordinance approving bridge inspection program services by the Ohio Department of Transportation, declaring an emergency. Can we just give a brief overview on that, either Steve or Wes? This is, I believe, a new program.
It's not new. We did do it once before.
Okay.
That I know of. ODOT wants to do work on the bridges within the city. They did something similar in, gosh, I looked it up, 14, 15, it's been a few years ago, on the bridge right by Fallen Heroes. And they were going to do the bridge and fix the bridge basically, but they require us to consent, number one, to them doing the work, but number two, agreeing that if there's other work outside of the scope of what they're required to do, that we would do it. And one of the things they talk about is traffic control. If they find something that's just wrong, as they're doing their work that isn't within the bridge that we would need to do, that we would do our share of it. So we have done it once before. This is for bridge inspection services. I now know what scouring is. I thought it was a misprint. Steve, I guess scouring is when there's some, the water underneath the bridge is somehow deteriorating, affecting the bridge itself, and it's the actual term. But this is for them to go in and do inspection work within the community. As far as I know, I don't know what the timing of it is. Do you, Steve? How soon do you?
Yeah, they're trying to line up and get a decision from us quickly if they can, just because it'll be their 23 program.
So in the past resolution, when we did this before, we passed it and we said we'd do other things. They told us back then, we know nothing else that you need to do, but we're required to get your consent to do what might come up if it's within your sphere and not within ours.
This isn't necessarily us expending money or anything. It's us approving them to go
Consenting
through
them
the
doing
inspection, and we'll partner with them.
And we were partnering with them to do our share. If something comes up that's within our scope and they don't know of anything.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Second by John Grumney. Discussion. Roll call.
Joe St. John.
Yes.
John Grumney.
Yes.
David Martin,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper.
Yes.
Murray Neff,
Yes.
Tim Ghost,
Yes.
David Capel.
Yes.
7 yeas.
I'd like to make a motion on the emergency.
Second.
Second by John Grumney. Discussion. Roll call.
Joe St. John.
Yes.
John Grumney.
Yes.
David Martin.
Yes.
Cindy Cooper.
Yes.
Murray Neff.
Yes.
Tim Goes.
Yes.
Damon Capel.
Yes.
7 yeas.
All right, I'd like to make a motion on ordinance number 2022.43.
Second.
Second by John Grumney. Discussion. Roll call.
Joe St. John.
Yes.
John Grumney.
Yes.
David Martin.
Yes.
Cindy Cooper.
Yes.
Murray Neff.
Yes.
Tim Goes.
Yes.
Damon Capel.
Yes.
7 yeas.
All right, we're on to new and unfinished business. Mr. Ghost.
Nothing here tonight.
All right, Mr. Grumney,
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Mr. Capel,
Nothing here.
Mrs. Cooper.
Yes, just a reminder, we already talked about it, but trick or treat is gonna be Monday, October 31st from 6 to 8. Also, this weekend, Sunbury is having a fall festival on Sunday from 3 till 6. And also, I just wanted to let council know, last week I attended the Ohio Municipal League Conference that was in Columbus. If anybody would like to talk about that one-on-one, I can make time available for that. But I did want to leave you with some fun facts that I learned. Ohio has the 5th largest interstate system in all the states, and we have the 2nd most number of bridges. So now you know. That's it.
Oh, I like that.
And the festival Sunday will be on the
On
square.
the square. Yep.
Okay. That's all. Just wanted to point that out.
All right, that was your contribution.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Wanted it in the right place, you know, yeah.
shake and bake. Cool. All right, fair enough.
Nothing to report.
All right, excellent. My new and unfinished business, just quickly, every council member received a copy of the Village of Sunbury Comprehensive Plan, which was completed in 2016. This is available. Most of you may be familiar with it. I think Tim and Dave Martin wrote it. I'm just kidding. Their names are on it. I think I was a young lad back then on the Planning and Zoning Commission in this past. But I do want to call out, there's some very, I would say wise vision that was incorporated into this document. And this was done in partnership with the Regional Planning Commission. It talks about the history of Sunbury and how Sunbury used to be Sunbury Township and how it was divided into the townships as we know today, and how the town square was formed. It talks a lot about infrastructure, roadway networks, population trends, and there's a lot of focus on development trends, specifically with housing types, our ethnic breakdown. It's all very fact-based, as opposed to a developer telling us, what they want us to hear. It's based on information that's provided and vetted by former council members, former planning and zoning commission members, and the regional planning commission that helped put this together. So it talks about economic conditions and growth areas and growth types that Sunbury should pursue. But
Could we go back to me again?
sure, Dave Martin wrote this.
One thing, no, about things of interest.
Yes, please.
I didn't mention it, but early voting started last Wednesday. So if you want to vote, you could vote between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And those hours actually get longer the closer we get to election day, but early voting is happening.
Was that only at the Board of Elections location?
At the Board of Elections office, yes.
Excellent. I do want to call out one more thing. There's a very interesting visual on page 3. It's from the 1981 Sunbury Master Land Use Plan. You can see folks back in 1981 had a clear vision for what Sunbury was going to be, where they said it was either going to be PCD or PID or PRD. We know it's going to be something one day. So they placed the placeholders out there, and they marked it all the way out to kind of where PJ's is right now. But it's fun to overlay what the existing use is and see, oh, where did they get it right? Where did they, pencil it in wrong? All right, with that said, is there any other new or unfinished business? All right, we do have a need for an executive session. I'm going to read both of these, Mr. Green, correct? Yes, 1 second. Let me take a drink of water and take a breath. All right, council will be entering executive session per Ohio Revised Code sections 121.22 G2 to consider the purchase of property for public purposes, the sale of property at competitive bidding, or the sale or other disposition of unneeded, obsolete, or unfit for use property in accordance with section 505.10 of the revised code. If premature disclosure of information would give an unfair, competitive, or bargaining advantage to a person whose personal or private interest is adverse to the general public interest, and 121.22G3, conferences with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are subject of pending or imminent court action. And with that said, do we need a motion for that?
Yes.
That is my motion. Do we need to add invitees to this at this point? Or are we okay?
You can, yes.
Okay. I know we're gonna need probably Daryl, David Breen, Mr. Piles, all of council, and may have another council.
Attorney Aaron Brandon should be here as well.
Attorney Aaron Brogdon. All right.
And Mrs. Belcher.
I think, yeah,
We need her.
I think we're good.
How about Dana?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Second.
sorry, Dana.
Got a second by Damon Kaplan.
Tried to get you in.
Sorry, you get to go home.
Discussion? Roll call.
Joe St. John,
Yes.
Damon Capel,
Yes.
Tim Goes,
Yes.
Murray Neff,
Yes.
Don Grumney,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper,
Yes.
David Martin,
Yes.
7 yeas.
Take a brief recess before we. Question.
It's kind of
Live
interesting.
stream or in real? Which one's gonna be easier?
My
for you?
father was a